Hello and welcome to the class. My name's Paddy. Today we're going to be looking at part 2 of the IELTS listening test. After you watch this class, if you have any questions, remember that you can click on the chat icon at the top of your page here to send us a message with any questions that you have. This will be the second class of 2 classes. This video will last just over 20 minutes. First, we're going to look at map questions and how to understand them and predict answers. Then we're going to see an example of a part 2 map question. So by the end of this video, you will be more aware of how to do and prepare for this type of question. During the class, there will be some questions for you to answer. You can find these below the video. I will tell you when you need to answer these questions, and I will give you about 10 to 15 seconds to answer them. Okay, let's get started. So, in the IELTS listening part 2, you will hear one speaker. It will be a monologue, so not a conversation between 2 different people, but one person speaking about a topic. You may hear a second speaker introducing them, like a radio presenter, but again, it is mostly one person speaking. This is not an academic topic, so you're not going to be listening to a university professor talking about a scientific topic, for example. It will be something like a guide to a place or event, like a museum. It could be an explanation of a process, such as how to buy a house, or it could be somebody giving advice about a situation, maybe somebody on the radio talking about relationships. When you listen in part 2, you're often looking for specific information, details, rather than getting a general overview. There are many different types of question for part 2, but very common ones include multiple choice, completing notes with words, matching features, so you will have some topics or headings and have to match information to those, and as we're going to look at today, labeling a map. So here we see an example of a map that you will need to label for a part 2 question. Don't worry if you can't read all the details of this map, just look at it in general and decide what type of map is this. Is it A, an area of land? Is it B, a town or a city? Is it C, the inside of a building? Or is it D, an outdoor path? Look at the first question below this video and choose the correct option. So this map is C, the inside of a building. So this map shows the rooms of a building, and it could be the floor plan of an office or a hospital or a museum, for example. The other map types are also common. So we have A, an area of land. This will be a map showing a large area of land, including things like forests, rivers, and towns. B, a town or a city. This will be a map showing the buildings and the streets of a human settlement, like a town or a city. And D, an outdoor path. This will be a route through somewhere you can visit, like a natural park. In this type of question, you will listen to a recording giving you a path or a route through the map. You need to follow this route while you listen on the map so that you can identify the locations in the questions. If you want to prepare for questions like this, it's very important to study language of giving directions and prepositions of location and prepositions of movement. So things like into, onto, in front of, words like that. There are 3 types of map question that we're going to look at today. So let's look at the first. In this map, as we saw before, there are 7 letters, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. These represent the names of rooms in this case. The question has 4 rooms, and you need to identify which letter matches which room. Now, of course, there are more letters than rooms, so some of these letters are distractors. They are not correct answers. One thing that can help you is the fact that the recording will go in the same order as the questions. So you will hear them talk about the reception near the beginning, and you will hear them talk about the library near the end. We can use this information to help us when we're predicting answers, so before we listen. So the first question is 13, reception. Let's look at the map. Where do you think they are going to start? Well, one logical answer would be the main entrance. So we can see the main entrance here. If you were giving someone directions in this building, you would probably start near the main entrance. So, given this information, which of the letters could be the reception? Look at the next question below this video and choose the 4 possible letters that could be reception. So in this question, reception will probably be E, A, B, or C. It's unlikely to be D, F, and G because these are a little bit further from the entrance. These kind of logical guesses can really help you before you listen. We can also look at the letters themselves. We see here letter G. Look at this image and notice that it's a little bit different to the other ones. In your opinion, which of those questions do you think G is not? So 13, 14, 15, and 16, which of those do you think is probably not going to match with G? Look at the next question below this video and choose the 2 locations that G probably does not match with. So I think reception is probably not letter G, and room 102 is also probably not letter G. A reception is more likely to be a closed off desk or a separate room. Room 102 is obviously a room, and G does not look like a room. Study area and library, well, we could imagine G is maybe an open table for a study area, or it could be a library if we imagine some books in this open area. So little pieces of information like that can help you predict what answers could be or what they could not be. Let's look at the next type of map question. Here we see a map, but this time there are no letters. Instead, we have the numbered questions. So 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17 are labelled on this map. What we have to do is decide the names of the rooms. For this question type, we are given a list to choose from. As you can see, there are more letters than numbers. So some of these letters are distractors, not correct answers. How many distractors are there for these questions? Look at the next question below this video and choose the correct number of distractors for this question. There are 2 distractors here. So 2 of these options of the letters will not be correct. This is because we have 5 questions, but 7 options. Be careful because you will probably hear almost all of those 7 options, but only 5 of them will be correct. Now, just like before, we can use the order of the questions to help us predict those answers. If we look here, we can see 13 is in the corner there. That is the first question. It will then move to 14 in front of it. Then it will go all the way to 15, and then 16 in front of that, and then 17. So what we might like to do is draw that route on the map before we listen. So here we go, 13 to 14, 15 to 16, all the way to 17. This can help our eyes to follow while we listen, helping us get the placement of those rooms. We can also use some of those unusual rooms to eliminate some answers. So just like before, this object in the corner for question 17, what do you think would be a bad match for question 17 here, looking at that object? Look at those options, A to G, and decide which of those would not be a good match for question 17. Look at the next question below this video and choose 4 options. So here for question 17 in the corner, I think manager's office is probably not going to match that table object. Just like before, we can eliminate reception because that's probably going to be near the main entrance and it's probably its own room. Councillor's office, we can eliminate. An office, again, would be a room, and that's not going to be the toilets, probably not in an open space like that. Now we're going to look at another type of question. Here we can see a map similar to the previous example. This time there are 7 labels, and the labels are the question numbers. The difference here is that there is no word list for this type of question. All of the answers will be in the listening, and we need to write what we hear. Don't worry, they will not usually include things like proper nouns. So you will not get things like Jennifer's office. It will be common nouns, things like cafe or toilets or lake, for example. Just like before, we can use the order of the questions to help us follow the route while we listen. So we can predict 13, 14, 15, 16 will go in this order here. So we should be following that with our eyes when we listen. Just like before, there will also be distractors in this question. So you will hear the names of locations that may not be the correct answer to these questions. Now we're going to look at another example. Here we can see a new map. Just like before, let's identify what type of map is this. Is it A, an area of land, B, a town or city, C, the inside of a building, or D, an outdoor path? Look at the next question below this video and choose the correct option. This is D, an outdoor path. So that path is here. The speaker will be following this route, and we should be listening out for the various locations on that path. We can use the labels and title and other information in this map to try to predict some of the possible answers that might come up. So the title is Dukehurst Estate. We have a boating lake. We have cedar woods, we have a walled garden, a seed bank, a play area, a car park, and an entrance. So using this information, what other locations would we expect to hear in this type of question? Look at the next question below this video, and can you choose 4 options that you would expect for this map out of restaurant, bank, forest, information centre, computer centre, cafe, and construction site? Choose 4 options. So from that list, 4 logical locations we might expect are the restaurant, the forest, the information center for tourists, for example, and the cafe. The others we would expect to hear in different types of map, but not this one. Now, we don't see the question instructions on the screen, but I can tell you that the instructions for this question say, write no more than 2 words. So if we think the answer was information center, then that would be a good answer, but the information center would be a bad answer because that is 3 words. So the number of words is also another thing to pay attention to. It can help you get the right answer and not make a mistake. Sometimes a map will have a compass in the bottom corner. This shows you north, south, east, and west. If you see a compass, then you can expect the reference to be about going west and going east or going north. If you don't see a compass, then we can probably expect left and right, up and down to be our reference points. Here, there is no compass, so we're probably going to be hearing things like left and right. Now, we're going to listen to the recording for these questions. Before we do that, we need to know what route we're going to follow with our eyes while we listen. Look at the numbers and look at the labels. Of those labels, which words do you expect us to hear first? So out of boating lake, cedar woods, walled garden, seed bank, play area, entrance and car park, which of those do you think we will hear first? Look at the next question below this video and choose the 2 labels you expect to hear first. So we would expect to hear car park and entrance first. So this arrow suggests that is where they're going to begin. We also can see that 16, the first question, is near the beginning also, so that gives us a little hint. 16 is going to be followed by 17, so that's where you should look after. Then 18, so we can expect the path to go round this way. Then we have 19, then 20. So these numbers, again, give us an idea of what route we're going to follow. We are going to play the audio now. Listen and try to complete the 5 questions below the video. So that's questions 16, then 17, 18, 19, and 20. Don't worry if you don't get all of them, but you will need to write the correct answer into the box for each question. Okay.
So if you look at the map in your visitor's leaflet, you can see we have a main route for you to take. But this is by no means the only way to enjoy the Dukehurst estate. Most of you will have arrived through the main entrance and left your vehicles in the car park. Just up the way from the car park, on the left, is the Visitors Centre, where we are now. This building is mostly used for educational purposes, like school trips, but we sometimes have special events here. If you head outside, you'll see the gift shop in front of you. I recommend popping in before you leave today. We've got some great wildlife books and some fun toys for the kids. As you head further into the estate, the path splits. Our suggested route is to take the left path, which will bring you to the walled garden. This area of rose bushes and evergreen shrubs has been maintained carefully by expert gardeners since it was built in 1784, around the same time as the mansion, which you can reach by walking through the garden. After visiting the mansion, go back through the garden and continue along the main path. You'll go past the boating lake, which is home to a number of wild birds. You will then go between the rockery and the cedar woods. The rockery is my favourite area, except for the apple orchard, as it has some of the most exotic plants in the UK. Our famous heritage seed bank is unfortunately closed at this time of year. But don't worry, the cafeteria right behind it is still serving customers. Any visitors with children can take advantage of the children's play area, which is just outside the cafeteria. And when you've had your fill of tea and cakes, it's time to head home. So I hope you all enjoy your trip, and if any of you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Right, so well done if you got some of those correct. I'm going to show you the answer options now. So let's imagine this is a different type of question where you can see the word list. We're going to use this to give you the correct answers. So 16, the correct answer was Visitors Centre. Some of you may have written Visitor Centre with no S after visitor. Unfortunately, this would be wrong. So plurals and possessives are a very common way of getting the answer wrong in the IELTS test. You really need to listen for those S's and also think about, well, is it more logical to have a plural form or a singular form? So 16 was Visitors Centre there. 17 was gift shop. Again, of course, if you wrote the gift shop, that would be incorrect because, as we said before, this is no more than 2 words. 18 would be mansion. If you wrote the mansion, that would also be fine. 19 was rockery. So this is a less common word, and if you got that, well done. And 20 finally was cafeteria. So they describe that as being behind the seed bank. So those prepositions of location and movement are very important to understand for this type of question. That is the end of this class. Remember, if you have any questions, you can click on the chat icon at the top of your screen to send us a message with any questions that you have. It's now time to do all the extra training and practice activities for this topic. Thank you for listening.